aspects like firearms, then fire arson, and then explosives. Because in all these three case of three substances, we see that there is fire that is getting generated, heat that is being formed, and then reactions are also little exothermic in nature. But then there is a subtle difference in all the three. Now, what do you think will be the subtle difference when we talk of a comparison between the explosives and the arson? What precisely do you think will make them different, and why do we have to study these two things as separate topics? If there is so much similarity, then we could have studied all of them together and under only one heading. Then where is the necessity for us to give different nomenclatures to that, and why should we study them as separate entities? Any ideas and any thoughts over that? Are you getting my point? Yes.
Yes, ma'am, but we need no, ma'am. We are not.
The thing is, we know that in all these three substances, like whether it is fire, when we talk of fire, on account of accident or maybe arson, that is one subject. And firearms also as a separate subject we study that. And also the explosives is yet another kind of a category of substance, we try to study them separate. But the common things and then the differences also we need to understand. So as far as the commonality is concerned, we have seen that they are more or less rapid reactions, number one. Then they are all related to somewhat oxidation reduction reactions, redox reactions, and more or less they are exothermic in nature. So we have understood in the last class what exothermic reactions are. So when enormous heat gets generated as one of the reaction products, we call such reactions as exothermic. That means it generates lots of heat. So whatever difference of energy that is there between the reactants and the products, end products, then that difference in energy is dissipated or released or liberated in the form of a heat, isn't it? So whenever the heat gets generated in a reaction, such reactions are called exothermic in nature. Now exothermic reactions, as a matter of rule, lot of heat is being produced, and heat at times is followed by fire or flame, and that is associated with energy. So these things are common in all the three. That means whether you talk of firearms, whether you talk of arson, or whether you talk of firearms, the same is the reaction. But the only thing that makes explosive as a serious subject and as a more devastating element is the pressure element also is added here. Now the pressure element. So why is the pressure due to? Where is the pressure? What is the source of that pressure? Which element is creating pressure? What is the causative factor of the pressure? From where pressure is emanating? Yes? What is the source of pressure? Now, in the process of combustion, so all these reactions are combustion only. So combustion is where the substance reacts with the oxygen that is present in the air, and that leads to these reactions, isn't it? And that is called combustion. Now, more or less these are all combustions, but only thing is there are some substances which are by nature little sensitive, and by nature which are also so unstable, and they have a lot of these elements in it: nitrogen, hydrogen, carbon. These are elements which are there in almost all fuels. If you take the formula, chemical formula of all the fuels, so you see that these are responsible for making a particular element as a a combustible material, other ignitable material, isn't it? Now, some compounds, they do have these fuels inbuilt inside the molecule only. Now, such molecules will be very, they can be converted easily to explosives, isn't it? Now, explosive is a special subject because when a fuel, organic fuel, when it is ignited with the help of oxygen, then you will see tremendous gases are generated. And when gases are generated, they are generated under tremendous pressure. And when they are contained, for example, a substance is contained, it is enclosed. Now, if it is enclosed, and all the more if the gases that are generated are exerting lot of pressure, gases have to go out, isn't it? When gases are developing and when they are confined in a container, where will they go? So, only way that they can go out is what? By what means? Let us say a pipe is there. We are making a pipe bomb, let us say. So pipe bomb, we have inserted the explosive material and we have also ensured that enough ignition has been given to it, enough spark is given to it. Now it is going to explode. So what is the phenomena? What is the process involved? Now what happens when you ignite this? The explosive material, when you ignite this, what will happen? What will happen? Now, why the pipe is bursting? Why is it fragmenting? Why is it getting itself fragmented? Any ideas on that?
Shock wave is created.
Where in the pipe bomb shock wave is generated?
Explosion.
Huh.
Any explosion, the shock wave is created due to the combustion.
Now, what you need to understand here, I'll a little disagree with this. The thing is, depending upon the pressure that is generated on account of the gases, isn't it? Now, suppose instead of keeping the material, that is the explosive, inside a bomb, I am just keeping it outside and I am just lighting it with a spark. Do you think that it will explode? Does it explode?
Confinement is good.
That is what you need to understand now. The low kind of explosives, so based on the amount of energies, the speed with which the wave travels and the mechanism of burning and the speed with which the wave travels and all, and what is the energy associated, we can safely divide the explosives into low and high, isn't it? So this is the basis. Now, by rule, the low explosives which we are talking about in case of a pipe bomb, now if you just keep that explosive now outside, not confinement, if you just keep it outside and try to explode it, it doesn't explode. This is one point you need to understand. Now, for it to develop some pressure and for the gases to get liberated, there is only one way. They are going to, when they are inside a pipe or inside any confinement, what do? Because enormous volumes of gases are generated, are liberated, the only way they can go out is by exerting tremendous pressure on the container and thereby make it fragmented. It is blown to fragments, and because of the pressure, the blown fragments are thrown to distances. That means the people who are in the vicinity of that bomb, whosoever is in the vicinity of that radius of that bomb, they are going to be affected. This is what exactly or precisely the bomber would like to achieve, isn't it? Now, with the available resources, and with available resources and implements, he wants to prepare such a low-cost kind of a bomb. And colloquially we call it a bomb, rather the right word that we need to use is, what is it? What is the right word we are supposed to use for bombs? Bomb is a colloquial word. Yes?
Explosive.
No. Bomb is a colloquial word, but the right word that we need to use for that is improvised explosive device. Are you getting this? Improvised explosive device. You heard about that?
Yes, ma'am.
IEDs. So IEDs is the short form, we are all familiar. Now when it comes to expansion also we should know. Improvised का मतलब they are not, their normal use is not that, but then since a person who is expert in preparing bombs and all, so they don't want to spend too much. So whatever is available household things, he wants to assemble and then he wants to prepare and then he wants to achieve the target. What is the target? Within short, somebody is on, I think. Vajananji, you were on, wanted to say something? ठीक है. Now, I think there is some disturbance, I don't know. Is there any other disturbance?
No, ma'am. Please continue.
Huh. So IEDs are improvised. The very name improvised suggests that whatever that household things that are available with the small little things, it is the unity of the person, it is the skill of the person who is expert in making it, and he makes it, and then he ensures that the people who are in the vicinity, they are the targets and they should successfully being attacked. This is what is the aim of the bomber. Now in all terror attacks, in all insurgency kind of a things, so this is what is the aim of the terrorist. So the very name is to generate terror, and he will be targeting mostly the civilians. Panic, it create panic in the minds of the people, civilians. That is the aim, ultimate aim of a terror act, isn't it? Now, IEDs are, the improvised versions of the explosives, and they are not normally, some oxidizing substances and normally available chemicals and all, some fertilizers. So what is the intended purpose of a fertilizer otherwise? What is the intended, like drugs and all, we also say that intended use and then abuse. Intended use, abuse. What is the difference when you talk of drugs? Intended purpose and abuse. What do you understand by that?
Medical purpose. Intended purpose is medical.
Intended purpose is medical, yes. Abuse money? Unintended purpose, for some other ulterior motive somebody is using, isn't it? Like that, explosives also, improvised explosive devices also, you see that some fertilizers and all, especially ammonium nitrate and urea kind of substances, what is the intended purpose of that? As the name implies, what is the intended purpose?
Manure.
They are to be used as fertilizers, isn't it? So, what is the unintended purpose? Unintended purpose is for the preparation of the IEDs, improvised. So, he is improvising his technology, improvising the chemical and then making use of that chemical, and he is preparing a bomb which he wants to use for an illegal purpose. So, these are improvised explosive devices, IEDs, colloquially called as bombs. Now, bombs also, do you think that they can be differentiated between, because bombs, otherwise explosives also have lot of useful purposes also. What are the useful purposes of explosives? Where do we use them? Mining and road construction, tunnels, isn't it? So these are all intended purposes. You cannot just ban explosives per se. There are rules, explosive rules, explosive substance rules and all. These rules, special local law is there for us to control whether to go for license and how long the license should continue and all. So these laws are speaking about all these regulations, isn't it? So you cannot put a ban, complete ban on the production of the explosives, but we too have some intended good purposes also. And in civil matters And then in military purposes also, military grenades and all, for warfare and all, we do use these things. So you cannot completely ban these substances, but then nevertheless you can have some kind of a regulation control by putting in law in place. That is your special local law with regard to Explosive Substance Act and then Explosive Act and rules thereof. Now that being the case, now the can you differentiate from the scene? Can you differentiate from a scene of explosion whether the explosive that is used is improvised explosive or it is a commercial explosive which is used for civil purposes, commercial explosives or military explosives? Can you just differentiate or discriminate by looking at the crime scenes? Is it possible?
Possible, ma'am.
How?
The debris we have to search. If improvised like a cooker bomb or like that, they might have used. Military, there will be markings. Military purpose.
Yes. So military and all, because one thing we have to understand, now improvised explosive devices, they are never tested, unlike the other commercial explosives which have got a very good intended purpose. So you know that what is the job that has to be done by that explosive, how much quantity should be there, and how in what controlled condition that has to be used under. So there is a standard for that. Am I right? So there is a standard for that. But then when somebody is intended to prepare an improvised explosive device, there is no standard. He need not follow strictly any standards. What is his aim? If suppose a terror group is trying to prepare an IED, what will be his only aim? Destruction. Without any constructive purpose, isn't it? Destruction create some kind of fear in the mind of the innocent people. This is what is the target. This is what he wants to achieve at the end of the day. Now for that purpose he is not abided by any kind of a rule or right, isn't it? Unlike a civil commercial kind of an explosive or a military explosive where there is an intended specific purpose. Now for that intended specific purpose, there is a specific quantification that is required. There is a specific standard according to which it has to be manufactured, isn't it? These kind of things are completely wanting in IEDs. So there is no specification, there is no pre-testing before release into the market, no pre-trial. These things are completely wanting. It is just like your drugs only. You have to draw similar analogy between drugs, illicit drugs and then these IEDs. So with the result what will happen now, whenever a military kind of a explosive or commercial civil purpose kind of an explosive is being prepared, you will see that the year of manufacture, brand name, all other details, batch number, isn't it? All these details in the fragments definitely you will find, isn't it? So these things will be completely wanting in case of a IED. Is that clear? Is that clear? Now, the destruction is the only target in case of course, even commercial explosion and all, this is only constructive destruction, I should say. When it is for an intended purpose, useful purpose. Here in IEDs, the only purpose is different: to attack people, to kill people, to devastate properties, to destroy properties. This is what is the intended purpose. Now, that is the thing we can draw. Now, when we talk of low explosives and high explosives, now we said the low explosives can become little violent, can be devastating only when they are contained in a particular container. Now, we need to understand different concepts here. Now, when the explosions mainly they result in the damage of the property, some bodily injury, or maybe it is that if the bodies are too near to the seat of explosion, like in fire arson when we talked about, we were saying that two aspects are important, like one establishing the origin of fire, and the other one is cause of fire. Similarly, in explosion also we need to establish what is known as the site of explosion, isn't it? Origin of explosion or the site of explosion. Now, there are different manifestations that happen if you observe the surrounding or if you observe the effect of a bomb in the surrounding. You will see that there are so many manifestations that you can understand. Now, there are injuries to the human bodies, there are destructions to the properties, to the structure. Most of them, the gas pipes may be broken, or the electrical lines will be down, isn't it? There are so many other manifestations that you will observe. Now, the IEDs are distinguished, from, as I said, commercial and military explosives because of the very manufacture. They'll have a very neat manufacture, year of manufacture, and then the batch number, and all these things, specifications will be written on the explosives, and these are completely wanting or lacking in case of IEDs. This is what you need to understand. Now, there are like clandestine laboratory. When we talk of the illicit drugs, we can also talk about clandestine laboratories when we talk in terms of preparation of explosives. What are clandestine laboratories, by the way? Unauthorized, and then they doing illegal work. They may not be authorized also, but then, as you said, authorized, but then under the cover of authorization may be doing an illegal activity. See, isn't it? So, most of the clandestine laboratories, they are either indulged in manufacture of illicit drugs, or else they may be manufacturing this kind of IEDs or improvised explosive devices, otherwise bombs, isn't it? Now, because you don't require much paraphernalia for preparation of these things, as I told you, only household things are what are required, that's it. So, some chemicals and all powerful chemicals, and these days fertilizers can also be converted into, IEDs. So, no problem. Fertilizers anyway, in any fertilizer manufacturing company will get it. It's so easy. So, it is not difficult to prepare. So, clandestine laboratories, even a dilapidated building can be rented, taken on rent, and a retired chemist can be employed, and then you can employ him, and then you can very silently manufacture these things. Now, clandestine laboratories also you need to check whenever there is a information from reliable sources that somebody is indulged in preparing IEDs and there is one clandestine lab, and mostly the patrolling groups, so patrolling beat constables and all, they'll be vigilant and they'll be observing some kind of smokes and then some kind of flames coming and some kind of odd smells coming out from some dilapidated building and all, so that should give lot of suspicion, and then if you go there, definitely you will find lot of things in the several stages of preparation and all. So you may have to seize these things, and then these bombs or devices will be in different stages of manufacture. So all those things need to be collected and all for further investigation, and to show that whatever raw material that are available are in fact they are going to make a particular IED or not. That has to be established. That can happen only when you analyze these elements and then say yes, these are potential raw material that can go to make a bomb, and all can be completely confirmation can be made after we receive the report from the forensic science laboratory. Now, all explosion cases can be categorized into two types of cases. Like in one case, you see that there is before explosion has happened, you have some reliable information that somebody is planting. You have some intelligence that somebody is in the process of manufacturing, and then somebody may um, plant some explosion and so on so date. This is one information. This is one category of cases. The other category of cases is when explosion has taken place, then you also investigate, and those type of cases are called post-blast investigation, pre-blast investigation, and then post-blast investigation. Now, in post-blast investigation, what is the purpose of investigation? Now, we know that by looking at the scene itself, that we know that the scene is an account of explosion. Now, what is the great advantage that we can attain by investigating, spending so much resource and manpower, and involving disaster management and all other agencies, NIE and all these people? Why do you still think that there is the need for us to also undertake what is known as the post-blast investigation? So pre-blast investigation is okay. We can save lives, and then we can avert the crimes happening, and all. We can understand the logic. But then, what is your logic in studying this subject as a separate post-blast investigation? What is the necessity?
To identify the culprits, to identify the modus operandi, to identify the methods used.
That's okay, but then uh, what is the advantage I'm asking? This you will do in any case, in any other crime investigation. These are the normal things that we do. We try to identify that the crime has happened. Then we know that so and so is the perpetrator. Through lot of links, clues, physical evidence, we try to connect the perpetrator to the crime and all. These are very common in any investigation. These are common things. But then when it comes to explosive, why we have two kinds of these category of investigations? One is pre-blast and then post-blast. So in pre-blast also more or less it will be the same thing. Then what is the advantages? Again going to the post-blast and doing it. What is the advantage of post-blasting?
The explosive items used, the government can take action to restrict some of restriction.
Put license control thing. That's what he means. That's also true. But then this is to understand the terror group, that is more important for us, isn't it? Now, who are doing these kind of activities? We know that only vested groups, disgruntled group, who have got a different ideology altogether, isn't it? This is the handiwork of these people. Am I right? So these are terror groups, insurgency groups, or some kind of people with a different ideology. These are the people, they are doing this. Now, in order to identify the groups, we need to identify the groups, because each group have got their own signatures, isn't it? The modus operandi. Sometime back we also referred to modus operandi, if I am right. Isn't it? You also said about modus operandi. I think maybe Thakur Sab, I don't know who referred the word modus operandi. But this is very important. Now we will be able to generate a very good database. Now, for example, around 2000 and odd year, we have seen many explosions happening in Hyderabad, and also many cases were reported in Bombay. Also, a series of blasts are reported. In all that cases, a typical explosive, only one kind of an explosive we use frequently, and only one mode of transmitting that explosive, like a book bomb or a suitcase bomb or a transistor bomb, isn't it? These are all IEDs only. Now, there is a typical signature that is left by the terrorist whenever they use the IEDs, isn't it? So, that signature we would like to see in all the crimes. Who is the person, who is the group that is behind this? What are their signatures? And somebody, they will also leave a souvenir. This is our handiwork. This is our handiwork. They leave slogan. They leave the scene with slogans. They go with, they leave a signature. They say that this is our handiwork. Some pamphlets and all they leave. Some literature they leave, isn't it? Now with all these things, in the post-blast especially, when you understand what is the chemical, what is the raw material that is being used, what kind of devices they are using, and then what are the common household things that they are using, and what is the mechanism that they are adopting, what kind of initiating devices that they are using, whether they are using remote kind of blasting or a landmine or claymore, what kind of explosives they are using. By that we will know, we can attribute this work as the handiwork of one terror group or one specific group, one vested group. So this is very, very important from the intelligence point of view, isn't it? And then we keep adding lot of intelligence, and then as you rightly said, that these things are being frequently used. Should we impose some kind of a restriction, control or regulation on the manufacture, or should we be little more stringent, strict in imposing a lot of controls over it, or should we bring in some law and all? So these things will be very, very important. That's the reason why post blast investigation typically is also important. But anyway, we know that explosion has happened. We are not going to again redo the entire thing or reconstruct the entire thing. That is impossible anyway. But still, this has got this particular purpose. From intelligence point of view, this is very, very important. That's the reason why post-blast investigation typically is also very, very important. Now, not all investigating officers are good in either post-blast investigation or the what you call the pre-blast investigation. The reason is very simple, because everybody cannot be an expert in all the fields, isn't it? And these officers who are called, the investigating officer who are specially trained and all, they are called bomb disposable squads, BDS in short. Do we have some BDS teams in Pune, Bombay or any other place, Maharashtra?
Yes, ma'am. We have got in metros and important towns. What
Special. They are there. They are there, isn't it?
Yes.
And they are typically given lot of training in all these aspects, because any inadvertent act or inadequate or what you call careless act on the part of investigating officer, it is going to cost him heavy. He may lose his life also. So that is the reason not all investigating officers can do a pre-blast investigation or post-blast investigation. So specially trained people who are called bomb disposable squads, because they have all the wherewithal, the equipment and the special attire, wearing apparel and all will be given. Now they also are given lot of training on the nature of explosives, the common household items or chemicals that can be used as explosives, and depending upon the nature of the explosive, and to what extent it is being, in what quantity it is being used. Now they have different techniques. Now once the explosive is located in an unexploded manner, unexploded explosive, suppose that is located. Now because of special training that these people have undergone, now they know the ways and means in which to make that particular dangerous thing called the explosive harmless. So harmless. Now we are given a thumb rule saying that all explosives, unexploded explosives, can be rendered harmless by putting them in a bucket of water. Suppose this is the thumb rule I give. This is the thumb rule I give. What will happen? Does it work well with all explosives? Does it work with all explosives?
No, ma'am.
If I make a statement saying that explosives can be rendered harmless by putting them in a bucket of water, that may be good for explosives where chemicals involved are water soluble, like potassium chlorate, sulfur. These things, some of these things may be soluble in water. When you talk of crude bombs and or IEDs, where the chemical that is being used is potassium chlorate and sulfur kind of thing, because of their solubility, maybe if you keep these bombs in water, bucket of water, by a process called as quenching the thirst बोलते हैं ना, इसीलिए ये बॉम्ब्स को भी अगर बकेट बाल्टी में पानी में रखे तो, because most of the chemicals, they get dissolved in water. Now over a period of time, if you leave them in bucket of water, and because potassium chlorate is soluble in water, then once the dangerous chemical is dissolved in water, now the bomb is made harmless, isn't it? That may work good for one category of bombs only, but the same rule cannot be applied as a universal rule to every explosive, isn't it? So half knowledge is very dangerous. So just because one teacher in one class told in one of the explosive classes that quenching is the best way to render a unexploded bomb harmless, बोल के पूरा उसमें लगाए, so there may be some bombs which are very sensitive to water also. The moment you put in water, it may explode immediately, and then you may be a prey, you may become a victim of that scene and all. So these people, bomb disposal squads, are so trained that they know, depending upon what type of chemical that is being used, they know different processes, different methods by which that explosive can be made harmless. So they are very experts in that. So what they try to do is, some explosives become harmless by aging, what is known as aging, by keeping some sand barricades and all. If you just age them for days together, maybe they become harmless. That is one thing. And some explosives, as I said, quenching is the best method. Now, whenever an explosive or whenever an improvised explosive device is being suspected, now it is the BDS team by radio message and all, they will be called and they will come with all the gadgets, and what they do is they try to understand by microphones and all what kind of mechanism is used, time devices are used, time kind of time bombs are used and all. So they'll know the nature of the bomb, and then with the portable X-ray kind of a thing, they'll take an X-ray of that entire thing, and they'll come to know what is the exact mechanism with which it is made, and accordingly what method will be suitable to make them harmless, they'll understand that, and they will do what is known as diffusion method. By diffusion method, a very small quantity of the material is being extracted, and these samples they will be seizing and they will be handing them over to the investigating officer, main investigating officer. And once these bulk IEDs are now located, what do? They will wear a special attire and all. They will take these bulk explosives to a very distant place, and then there they will try to destroy all these things, because destroying an IED is also very risky unless until you wear the proper attire and all, and you employ some equipment and all, only then it will be safe to do these things. So normal investigating officer never should venture to do such things. This is one thing you have to understand, the BDSC. Similarly, for civil kind of explosives also, there are experts from the civil departments also. In Hyderabad, we do have, for civil explosives, there is a separate agency, and for military also, because most of the time, the bombster, what he does is, he will pilferage, because they are very costly. So he will not get the access. The only way is he will pilfer. He will very silently steal those things, and then he may employ. So at times in IED you will also see the usage of specified things also, like the military explosives or the commercial explosives. But that doesn't mean that they are used for the intended purpose. When the motive is completely different, the entire scenario will change. The motive is very important in any crime. Motive is very important. Even though you use a military commercial explosive or a military explosive, but when your purpose of using that is something associated with an ill feeling or ill intention or a malified intention, then it amounts to crime, is what you need to understand. Now, these low explosives, as I said, they can be confined and they can become little dangerous. To add further damage, what the bomber does is, he is going to add some components to it, to the homemade articles so that they become much more dangerous. One such addition is your sharpeners. Sharpeners may be in the form of blades, in the form of the glass pieces, nails, and all. And these will add, or otherwise, like a grenade kind of mimicking they can do. So the container is already a pre-fragmented kind of a container, and they'll try to throw it, and then the container itself is going to fragment itself, and each fragment can act as a missile. And since gases are available in tremendous pressure, so each fragment will be carried to distances, and whatever is there in the vicinity, whether it be inanimate thing or animate thing or human beings or animals, so these particles or the sharpness will pierce to the bodies, and then they may do lot of damage. So sharpnels are also important, or pre-fragmented kind of a grenade is also one of the things that are used normally in IEDs. Now you should also be familiar with terminologies like a booby trap. What is a booby trap? Any idea?
Kind of landmine.
Pressure bombs.
लैंडमाइन जैसा रहता है जिसमें पैर रखे तो ये जो नक्सलाइट्स वगैरह लगाता है ट्रैप बूबी ट्रैप, जो पैर रखे तो वो फटता है, प्रेशर मैकेनिज्म.
So it can be pressure, or it can be lifting, or it can be turning it from one side to the other, isn't it? So there is a switch that is been arranged, on off switch, simple terms, on off switch, or if you there is a book bomb, a transistor bomb kind of things, they will look very innocent. These items look very innocent. A suitcase which is left in a railway station, or a suitcase which is left in a hotel or in a public place. So if somebody is getting attracted, so they are made in such a way that they are little attractive and all. They'll be made and they'll be left at one place, and somebody tries to lift it, they might have arranged a switch like that, where mere lifting of the object, the circuit is going to be complete, and it may initiate the mechanism and it may explode, isn't it? So booby traps are those kind of bombs, IEDs, which look very innocent and which look very they look like any household kind of a thing, and by innocently, if somebody is being trapped by that, and if somebody is going to pick it up or pull it up or drag it, or by with enthusiasm if somebody is going to touch it or turn it, isn't it? So mere actions of this kind, the bomb is going to explode. And especially investigating officers, when they go for investigation, so there may be booby traps. So that is the reason why whenever you approach a scene of explosion, the thumb rule is that even though there is an information that all explosive substances have been exploded, even if you have a very strong information about that, but then your approach to the scene should be as if that there are still some more explosive substances or explosive devices that they are ready to explode. That should be your approach. That should be your approach, because we do not know. Maybe the bomber might have planted some kind of booby traps also. So that is the meaning of booby trap. Booby traps appear very very innocent items, like our household items, like tube or some bucket, some transistor, some suitcase, some parcel. These kind of things are letter bomb, isn't it? So these kind of things, very very normal things, they'll appear, but then they are disguised and they may plant some bombs in that. So these are very important. Booby traps are also important. Now, what does these booby traps do? So they might have incorporated so many different initiating mechanisms that, as somebody said, pressure release bomb may be there, or position changing bomb may be there, because these are all different switches they try to do, or some remote bombs, remote control will be there. So these are all different operations that they try to do, and then ensure that IEDs, the moment the intended person or some innocent person, the purpose of a terrorist is not even to target mostly the innocent people. to create panic, to create confusion, to create fear in the minds of the person. So most of the targets will be only innocent people, their job is done, and some innocent person dies in the process, their job is done. They have achieved their ambition, isn't it, their target. So that is what we need to understand. So these are booby traps. Now, what do you mean by the word brisance? Brisance. B-R-I-S-A-N-C-E. Brisance. We use this word mostly with explosives. This simply means the shattering power associated with high explosives. Because we know that low explosives, when they are used, they have only the pushing effect. So the walls will be thrown outwards and then the floor may be falling down and all. So these kind of pushing effect will be there only with low explosives. So hence they are best used as propellants. So where do you see the propellant, usage of propellant? Low explosives. Bullets. Ammunition, isn't it? Ammunition, you use them as the propellant, because they try to help the bullet in propelling. Propulsion means movement. They help the projectile in propulsion. Hence they are called propellants. They have got a pushing effect, isn't it? And what is the nature of these explosives? They are high explosives. They are not low explosives. The ones that are used in the primer as primers in a ammunition, they are not low explosives. They are high explosives. In fact, they are not low explosives. Very sensitive to, we are taking it wrong. They are highly high explosives. No, the low explosives are different. They can only burn. I mean, only when they are contained in a container, probably they will be more harmful. That's what we have understood. Now, the kind of explosives that we try to use in the ammunition, they are called propellants. They are also ultra sensitive to friction, spark and all, What are the normal high explosives that we try to use as propellants in case of ammunition? What kind of material, what kind of chemicals?
Sulfur.
No, chemicals. Yes. No, sulfur is an element only. Lead azide, lead sulfonate, lead fulminate, isn't it? These are the high explosive chemicals.
Mercury fulminate.
Mercury fulminate, isn't it? So these are the chemicals, Suppose in GSR and all, what are the elements that you look for when a gun is fired? These are the elements, because they are not there in खाली डर्मल नाइट्रेट करे तो आपको नाइट्रेट तो कई जगह से मिलेंगे आपको. इवन मैन्यूर फर्टिलाइजर्स उसमें भी नाइट्रेट रहता ना. तो नाइट्रेट पॉजिटिव आया तो यू कैन से दैट इट इज एन अकाउंट ऑफ गन पाउडर, है ना. तो डर्मल नाइट्रेट का उतना यू कैन टेक दैट एज ए प्रिलिमिनरी टेस्ट. डर्मल नाइट्रेट का आप तो इतना तो उसका वैल्यू नहीं है आजकल. So you have to test for these things. Only when lead and other mercury fulminate and all, if these things are present, if these elements are present, then you can probably confirm it by using what instrument in the lab. Gunshot residue will be confirmed in the lab by what by subjecting it to what instrument. Any idea? So we have what is known as electron microscope. Yes, Shailen, you want to say something? You know? So that is called scanning electron microscope. Scanning electron microscope, you need to confirm. Why? Because the particle of gunshot will have a typical shape and size. So once you do the chemical test, the best way to view it is under the electron microscope. It will have a different morphological characteristics, and once you confirm that there is lead, there is mercury and all, then you go for the scanning electron microscope. Why scanning electron microscope? Because it will give 1 lakh fold magnification. उतना उसमें मैग्निफिकेशन रहेगा, because we don't use photons in that electron microscope, we use the electrons as the light source, isn't it? So for that reason, the magnification of any item that is viewed under electron microscope will have a 1 lakh fold kind of magnification. इतना बड़ा दिखेगा हमको इलेक्ट्रॉन माइक्रोस्कोप के अंदर. तो वो शेप साइज देख के हम पहचान सकते दिस इज GSR पार्टिकल बोल के. तो खाली नाइट्रेट डर्मल टेस्ट से कुछ भी नहीं होगा. तो बोले तो बाकी आइटम्स भी जैसा फर्टिलाइजर वगैरह है, हाउस होल्ड आइटम्स है, वो भी पॉजिटिव दे सकते उसमें. तो यू नीड टू कंफर्म दैट ओनली अंडर द स्कैनिंग इलेक्ट्रॉन माइक्रोस्कोप. दैट्स व्हाट यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. नाउ what is the difference between deflagration and then the detonation? And case of low explosive, what kind of, is it deflagration that is the mechanism for ignition, or the detonation is the mechanism?
Low explosive के लिए deflagration.
Deflagration का मतलब बर्निंग है, खाली
धीरे बर्निंग करना.
हाँ, धीरे धीरे
रैपिड बर्निंग है, इट्स रैपिड बर्निंग.
हाँ बस. वो तो डेटोनेशन तो शॉक होता है, वेव, शॉक वेव होता है वो तो, शॉक वेव. इसका स्पीड भी ज़्यादा रहता है, इसका स्पीड भी ज़्यादा रहता है. एंड इसका डेटोनेशन का स्पीड व्हेन कंपेयर टू द डिफ्लैग्रेशन इट विल बी मोर. नाउ व्हाट डू यू अंडरस्टैंड बाय पायरोटेक्निक मिक्सचर्स? आर दे प्रोहिबिटेड अंडर एक्सप्लोसिव एक्ट और नॉट? पायरोटेक्निक मिक्सचर्स
प्रोहिबिटेड नहीं है. ये अपना जो क्रैकर्स
में
आता है, डिस्प्ले का जो वो इल्यूमिनेशन के लिए जो क्रैकर्स उड़ा जाता है वो उसमें आता है.
हाँ, उसमें ऑक्सीडाइजर होता है, फ्यूल मिक्सचर होता है, और थोड़ा कलर लाने के लिए थोड़ा कुछ लाइट मेटल्स वगैरह यूज होता है. और इसमें भी हमको लाइट मिलेगा, हीट मिलेगा, कभी कभी अकॉस्टिक का साउंड का भी मिल जाएगा. बट I don't think there is a control on usage, but then there is no complete ban under the, उसमें भी licensing कुछ होगा. So I am not very familiar with the special act का थोड़ा देखना है. This will be governed by Explosive Substance Act and Explosive Act, isn't it? And rules thereof, they are governed by that. Now confinement also we have understood, and rapid release of pressure on account of the gases is the one which is going to create lot of damage and then devastation, isn't it? So when you confine this, when you confine the low explosive, then that is going to happen. Now we have also sometimes talked about the natural gas incidences and all, whether it will explode or which will explode. I have already explained that. Can anybody reiterate it? When we talk of the gas explosions, what do we mean? Is it the gas that explodes or the cylinder that explodes? How the mishaps happen? Yes? Any idea? This we have already discussed, I suppose. ये डोमेस्टिक गैस का जो होता है वो कैसा होता है? नहीं, कैसा वो मिसहैप कैसा होता है? How these mishaps will happen? Now do you say that cylinder will blast or cylinder will be broken to pieces, or एक explosion कैसा होता है? How the explosion will occur or happen? Any idea? No idea?
No idea, ma'am.
हाँ. So what will happen? The normal cylinders, what we use for domestic purposes, it is LPG and then from natural gas and all, methane, butane वगैरह वो तो है. So we know that methane is a good combustible gas, and then when it combines with oxygen and then you get a blue flame and all. This we have already discussed. But the thing is, for some reasons and all, maybe a defective regulator, maybe a defective burner, or maybe a defective tubing, piping and all, you see that there is a constant leakage, and you can also notice the leakage of gas these days. because we add some ethyl mercaptan kind of a thing which has got a rotten, rotten egg smell kind of a thing, so that you can notice any leakage that are happening. Now slowly when these leak into the atmosphere, what will happen? What will happen? When these gas, that is the natural gas and then the domestic gases, when they leak, what will happen? They are going to mix themselves with the air. So air में क्या क्या होता है, हमको combust होने के लिए oxygen is the main thing, isn't it? Now, when these vapors of the gas, when they mix with the oxygen in right proportions, I told you they will form what are known as what clouds?
Explodable clouds.
They form what are known as explodable clouds. And when this process of low leakage of gas is happening, in several places you see the formation of explodable clouds. Not all clouds can form into explodable clouds. We have seen the lower flash level, LFL and UFL also, we have seen the temperature at which they will form the vapor in such proportion that they are easy to ignite and all, So the concentration of either the fuel or the oxygen, if they are not in the ratio, specific ratio, these clouds are not going to be converted into the explodable clouds. So once they are in that readiness of formation of an explodable cloud, and whenever there is an ignition, suitable ignition, either in the form of a spark or in the form of a friction and all, if that is given to that mixture, then they will, all clouds which are formed in several places, simultaneously they will get ignited, and that leads to a disastrous thing called the explosion. So this is what you need to understand when we talk of domestic gases and then the explosion on account of gases and all. It is not the cylinder. Cylinder will remain intact, but it is only the gases that come out of the cylinder. They are responsible for the explosion, what you need to understand. Now the effects of the explosives, if you see, what will be the effect, how many effects it will have on the surroundings? It is the blast wave. Now when there is a negative pressure acting on the behind the blast wave, you will see a formation of what is known as a typical hole in the crime scene. What is that hole called as? Because of the backward motion of the crater. Now crater is very, very characteristic. Why should we identify crater in all explosive crimes? What is the significance?
एक्सप्लोसिव का बताता है कि कितना उसका क्वांटिटी बताता है एक्सप्लोसिव यूज
like when we investigate arson cases, अब फायर केसेस, उसमें दो चीज हम बोलते हैं. एक तो we are interested in knowing two things. What are those two things in case of arson? We said one is origin, the other one is cause, isn't it? So similarly here also we have to know what is the seat of explosion, where exactly the explosive is being planted, isn't it? So there you will see lot of clues, because not all explosive substance will get completely burnt, isn't it? Some traces of unexploded, unaltered kind of a bomb or explosive will still be there. So that means you will get lot of clues from that site. So it is very important that whenever we investigate case of explosion, we need to identify the crater first. So the presence of crater is the place where it is the seat of explosion. Am I clear about that? Crater, by identifying the crater, we are establishing the site of explosion. That means this is the place where the explosive might have been kept. And there only you will see lot of clues also being present. And do you think the crater in a loose soil, crater on a road, crater in other depending upon the surfaces, will it be the same? Hold on for a second, I have water and then yes.
But also the same, if hard surface like that, you may not find the craters.
Right. So depending upon the surface, the dimensions of the crater are also going to be altered, isn't it? And it is always a worthwhile exercise that you need to take the length and breadth and the depth of the crater. So as somebody said, the shape and dimension of the crater is going to give you roughly the quantity, how much quantity of the explosive must have been used and what is the nature of the explosive. Not all low explosives can create crater. Can low explosives create crater? If I can ask. Can low explosive generate a crater?
Less possibility.
It may not create. It may not create because for blast wave and all to get developed that much to so as to leave a crater and all, low explosive may not be able to do this kind of devastation. Right? Then, what are the common explosives, main charges that can be used in the commercial kind of a or military kind of a explosive? What is TNT?
Trinitro-toluene.
Trinitro-toluene. What is PETN?
Tetranitro.
PE. E means?
PETN. Erythronitro.
Erythritol. Isn't it? Erythritol means it is indicating some sugar element also present in that. PETN is one thing. RDX is also another thing. कौन बता रहे वो? हमारे गजानन साहब कौन बता रहे? हाँ ठीक है, तो इसके पहले इसका वो केमिकल नेम पता नहीं था, इसको RDX के नाम से ही वो पॉपुलर होता था. RDX सही है RDX, बट इट आल्सो हैज गॉट ए केमिकल नेम. वी नीड नॉट बॉदर टू रिमेम्बर, जो टिपिकल है उसका नाम थोड़ा याद रखे तो बस है हमको. देन व्हाट इज द approximate pressure that can be developed in case of a detonation? Almost 1,50,000 kind of, and temperatures almost 3,000 in case of high explosives. So this thing also you need to remember. Then pipe bomb we have discussed anyway. Nature of each device, it will be determined by now what is the nature of target and what is the ingenuity of that person, what is the skill of that person. So depending upon the bomber's skill and all, he is going to select those many components and he is going to select the device, and accordingly he is going to make that. Because in the terror groups also it's a kind of a systematic kind of a training also they try to give. So if somebody has interest and skill in preparing bombs, or somebody is good at using firearms, so they will be given the training in that particular field of expertise, and whenever there is an assignment requiring their services, they will be deployed for such purposes. So they are very skillful in that, and they will be specially trained for that, and how to prepare it by observing all the safety precautions and all. This is also very important. Now, as I said, the common elements when you talk of preparing the IEDs, we need to have at least two basic elements. What are the two basic elements that we need to have? These are the basic minimum that we need to have whenever we think of preparing the IEDs. Two things are important. One is explosive, है ना? दूसरा तो इनिशिएटिव सिस्टम जो भी है वो तो बेसिक है. सो बेसिक के अलावा थोड़ा और एडिशनल कंपोनेंट्स में इसमें शामिल होना चाहिए. तो ये तो बेसिक तो एक्सप्लोसिव हो गया, और ये तो इनिशिएटिव मैकेनिज्म और इनिशिएटिव सिस्टम जो है वो तो हो गया। उसके अलावा एडिशनल कंपोनेंट्स भी हम इसमें ऐड करना चाहिए। क्यों बोले तो इसका पावर थोड़ा एनहांस करना चाहिए हमको, लो एक्सप्लोजिव को थोड़ा और मजबूत करना चाहिए हमको। इसीलिए उसमें कंटेनर तो एक है, कंटेनर इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज वी सेड व्हेन लो एक्सप्लोजिव्स आर कंटेन्ड they are going to give more devastating effect, so वो तो होना चाहिए। And then some binding material, in order we are using so many components, so all these components they need to be put together and they should be bound such that tightly that they will not become loose, and also some binding material is definitely required. So to enhance further the devastating effect, then I said we are supposed to add some sharpeners to it. Sharpeners may be in the form of, as I said, some household things like broken blade pieces or some glass pieces, some stone and all. So these kind of material will be added to the container, so that when the container breaks, not only the fragments of the container itself can also act as the missiles and our sharpeners, or some of the materials that we are going to add as additional components, they can also act as missiles, and then they are, each material is sure to hit the inanimate and animate things that are there in the intermediary. Now, as I said, these are the additional materials. Then why should we focus on these additional materials and then initiative mechanisms and all? What is the purpose? Why should we focus on these things? And why should we understand what are the components? What is the purpose? How it is going to help us in investigation? The explosive में तो सब तो burn हो जाता ना, that is our presumption, है ना? Then why should we know when everybody is going to become ash, when everything is going to burn to black? Then what is the use of understanding these things? How it will help us in the investigation?
Identifying the signature of a particular.
That is okay, but then the concept is that they will not be completely burned, they will still survive the explosion, they are available. So if you can identify, at least they will not be intact in their original shape, but then they will be so affected, so distorted, but still they will be there. If for example pipe bomb is there, pipe intact will not be there, but then the remnants of the pipe will be there. By looking at or examining minutely the remnants of the pipe, you are able to say that it is assembled in a pipe. That much तो हमको पता चलेगा, उससे हमको सिग्नेचर पता चलेगा, उससे वो टेरर ग्रुप क्या है, कौन है, वो भी पता चलेगा. And the remnants of not only the fragments, remnants of the chemical also, not all that chemical will be converted, some chemical will be still there, especially in the crater region and all, you will see the presence of remnants of the explosive also. उसको थोड़ा लेके उसको भी एग्जामिन करें तो, एनालिसिस करें तो, पहले फील्ड में थोड़ा हम करेंगे, फील्ड डिप्लॉयबल किट्स वगैरह, कमर्शियल किट्स जो हमको मिल रहे उससे टेस्ट करेंगे हम लोग, एंड हमको पता चलेगी उसका केमिकल का कॉम्पोजिशन ये है. And we also know that these are all the fragments, and we also collect that, and then we send it to the lab. And preliminary एक तो clues team हमारा, mobile teams हमारा जो है वो examine करेंगे on the spot, and they'll be able to tell us, yes, this is the chemical structure of this compound, this class of chemicals are present, this class of explosives are present in this, and further confirmation by sending it to the lab will also confirm. So this is little important, because the containers or the binding material or the glue that is used or the sharpeners that go to make the bomb, still they survive the explosion. That means they are completely not get evaporated, or they may not become vapor at all. Some remnants will still be there. So by examining these remnants, it will be very, very handy for the investigating officer to know what has gone into to prepare the explosive, or the bomb will be known very easily. Now, The speed also we said with which the chemical reaction occurs, based on that we said low explosives, and then they react by deflagration, and then this is a particle to particle burning also we said. Now high explosives we said they will not react by deflagration, by rather they react by phenomena called detonation and all we try to understand. And low explosives, they also have the propellant, they can be used as propellant powders. Propellant powders, where are they present? Your gunpowder, black powder, these things are propellants, isn't it? What are propellants? What are propellants? They are not these primers. Primers are different from propellant. What are primers that we have understood? What are primers that are there inside the cartridge, near the firing pin region in the cartridge case, they are embedded, isn't it? So they are primers, they are very highly sensitive explosive material made of fulminate and all that we have understood. They are primers and they are high explosives. But what are the propellants? What are propellant powders? Where are they present? पता है? You know the answer or not?
No, ma'am.
The propellants are nothing but, if you see the structure of a cartridge, you will see in the live cartridge, apart from the primer, the moment you pull the trigger, what is the mechanism? How will the firearm work? If you pull the trigger, what will happen?
Hammer will hit the primer.
The hammer will hit the primer.
Primer will ignite the
explosive. इसमें कौन सा high explosive is getting ignited by what? By the friction. Hammer इसको पिन करे तो क्या होता? पिन को टच करे तो क्या होता? फ्रिक्शन होता ना, मेटल टू मेटल फ्रिक्शन हो जाएगा. फ्रिक्शन is sufficient because these are ultra sensitive explosives, high explosives. प्राइमर जो होता है हमारा वो तो हाई एक्सप्लोसिव होता है, एंड फ्रिक्शन के वजह से दैट विल एक्सप्लोड. नो एक्सप्लोड होके क्या करेगा? उसके आगे कौन सा मेन चार्ज क्या होगा उसमें? गन पाउडर. गन पाउडर तो होगा ना गन में. एमिनेशन में क्या होगा? गन पाउडर तो होता है
नाइट्रेट सल्फर, नाइट्रेट सल्फर,
वो होता है. गन पाउडर बोलता है ना इसको. गन पाउडर जो होता है वो प्रोपेलेंट माना जाएगा हमारा. प्रोपेलेंट क्यों बोलता है इसको प्रोपेलेंट? बिकॉज दीज पाउडर्स हेल्प दी प्रोजेक्टाइल टू मूव फॉरवर्ड. बैरल के से निकलने के लिए यह हेल्प करेगा. हमारे जो प्रोपेलेंट पाउडर जो बर्निंग के बाद जो होता है प्रोपल्शन होता है. प्रोपल्शन का माने मूवमेंट होता है. किसको प्रोपेल करेगा ये प्रोपेलेंट?
बुलेट.
बुलेट जो होता है प्रोजेक्टाइल होता है. बुलेट का नाम प्रोजेक्टाइल है. और प्रोजेक्टाइल को प्रोपेल करने में कौन सा मटेरियल सहायता करता है, हेल्प करता है? See, when you understand the mechanism of firing, we said the friction that is given by the hammer when it is going to hit the कई उसमें पी कैप भी होता है ना. पी कैप प्राइमर कैप में प्राइमर्स होता है. द मोमेंट द प्राइमर gets ignited, then it will burn and then supply the energy to the gunpowder which is acting as a propellant. Gunpowder propellant का gases बनता है because they are also explosive, not highly, but they are also kind of explosives. So what will they do? They will generate lot of gases. वो gases क्या करेगा? Then they are going to propel because they help the projectile in motion, hence they are called propellants. Gunpowder is a propellant. तो अब तो मालूम हो गया ना propellant powder माने क्या होता है?
Yes, ma'am.
So these are propellants that are used in the ammunition or gunpowder, isn't it? So why they get the name as propellant? Because they help in the propulsion of the projectile. The propellant powders help in the propulsion of the projectile called the bullet. So पहले तो ये लाइव कैट्रिज तो इंटैक्ट बनता है, isn't it? It will be intact. Now at the time of firing, what happens to this? Why it gets detached? Why it becomes into pieces? दो पीसेस बनता है ना, एक तो कार्ट्रिज केस एम्प्टी बनता, दूसरा तो हमारा बुलेट होता है. सो दोनों मिलकर हमको लाइव कार्ट्रिज बनेगा. सो व्हाई डू यू थिंक the live cartridge will split into these two components?
The charge, the gas will be created that will expand that case. The projectile will be released.
What is the phenomena? What is the process there? सही है, आप जो बोल रहे सही है. What is the process? Any idea? No?
No.
हाँ ठीक है. So there is what is known as a phenomena called differential expansion. Differential expansion. What is the material with which bullet is made?
Mostly lead.
Lead?
Yes, lead.
And what is the material with which your cartridge case is made? Are they made of the same material or different materials?
No, brass.
है ना? So these two are different materials. Now different materials, different alloys or different metal components, when you heat them up, they will be expanding differentially, isn't it? So because of the differential expansion, on account of the different composition of the material with which bullet and cartridge are made of, so that is the reason when you pull a trigger, because of the tremendous gas pressure that gets generated and because of the heat that gets generated along with the gases, so these two will expand. On account of gas, you see gas pressure. On account of that, you also see lot of, because of explosion, you also see lot of heat getting generated. When heat is there, metals are subjected to expansion. So when you heat a metal, it undergoes expansion. Is it not? So when metals are expanding, and that too when the two different material which are there in a single entity, when they are differentially expanding, what will happen? They will try to break, isn't it? Now, they will try to break, and depending upon structure of the firearm, some of the empty cartridges will be retained inside the gun, or they will be ejected out with the help of ejector, extractor and all. If the structure of the gun is such that there is an extractor and ejector separately built, as in case of revolver and all, they will be extracted and they will be ejected out. And the other thing will be, the bullet will be traveling across the barrel, and it will be, if it is a very high explosive kind of a firearm, it will go and hit the target. So this is what you need to understand. So this is propulsion. This is propulsion. Propellants, they are called propellants. Now the low explosive react by deflagration, we have understood, and high explosives we also understood that they need a detonation and all. Propellant powders, mainly that what we use in ammunition and all, they are mainly composed of black powders and all. Black powders and all, I mean, in place of that we now currently use. Somebody also said the composition of black powder, what is it? Let us again.
Nitrate, sulfur and charcoal.
And a different proportion. Anyway, let us not bother to remember 75 of that, 15 of that, and then maybe remaining of that, the one is the thing. Now, because black powder, as the name suggests, is going to leave lot of the combustion product as black. Hence, they get the name black powder, isn't it? Now, in order to reduce this blackening of the powder propellant, now we are using two different things. Nitro cotton and then nitroglycerin. We are using these two compounds. Now, smokeless powders of single base, there you will see only nitrocellulose, and if smokeless powders are DB type, that is double base type, you get nitro cotton along with the nitroglycerin. Nitro cotton, otherwise also called as nitrocellulose. So we have understood smokeless powders of two categories. One is single base, the other one is double base. So what is the composition of single base? What is the component in place of nitrate, potassium nitrate? In smokeless powder, what is the component present? Single base वाला
60
नहीं इसका नाम
like that.
हाँ नाम क्या है उसका? सिंगल बेस में जो नाइट्रेट के प्लेस में जो यूज होता है नाइट्रोसेल्युलोज होता है वो हाँ नाइट्रोसेल्युलोज and if it is only single base only nitrocellulose. Suppose smokeless powder of DB type double base वाला उसमें और सेल्युलोज के अलावा और कौन सा होगा?
Nitroglycerin.
हाँ, so NC plus NG will be DB and only NC will be your single base and these are called smokeless. Why they get this name? Because compared to the black powder they leave very less combustible material in the form of carbon, hence they are called semi smokeless or smokeless. So semi smokeless में और थोड़ा black के कंपेयर करें तो थोड़ा ही होगा बट स्मोकलेस में बिल्कुल वो एलिमेंट कंप्लीट हमको माइनस होगा. And there are some chemical mixtures also at times that can be used as explosives. You know, in that you see one oxidizer, suitable fuel will be there, and it will be an redox reaction. Redox means reduction and oxidation. So both together will happen. So such reactions are called redox reactions. I think more or less and ANFO and all we'll talk about tomorrow and थोड़ा firearms का भी करे तो ये chapter खत्म होता. If there is still time we'll talk about you have to tell me the choice of topic now because hardly 3-4 days are there for us to start up our training program. So you have to tell me इसके ये तो ये classes तो काफ़ी हो गए अब हमारा एक्सप्लोसिव्स के ऊपर आर्सन के ऊपर और ये फायर आर्म्स का थोड़ा कुछ फायर आर्म्स कल भी थोड़ा डिस्कस करेंगे बट इसके अलावा एनी अदर टॉपिक और सब्जेक्ट यू फाइंड दैट इट इज़ लिटिल डिफिकल्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड वो डिस्कस करें तो और अच्छा थोड़ा फ़ायदा मिलेगा ना हमको. डिड यू आइडेंटिफाई एनी सच सब्जेक्ट्स तो थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट है अंडरस्टैंड करने में?
ब्लड ग्रुपिंग का ग्रुपिंग एबीओ ग्रुपिंग
वो एबीओ ग्रुपिंग का कल करेंगे. When do you want that? Biological fluids and other things you want it DNA भी
DNA also DNA भी साथ में
हाँ तो when should we have it? So during those holiday 27 to 26 27 वो वाला
27th I will be traveling in train now. 27th evening I will be there.
No problem. Whatever date is convenient. हम हमारे लिए तो कोई फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता. It is your convenience only. But anyway, detail will have when you have when you come there, you know, physical. That will have questions and discussion. But then थोड़ा difficult जो subjects होता है ना उसका थोड़ा और ज़्यादा हमको classes में दे तो अच्छा है ना इसीलिए पूछ रहे हम.
Ma'am, I have got a doubt. That day it was explained regarding that cylinder blast.
I know.
So one question was there that there is a spark inside the cylinder. What will be the effect?
Cylinder spark में तो कभी I don't know how somebody framed.
What I meant to say, but question was like that. Question itself was not proper.
That's what even I am about to say that and you. Because it cannot spark, it cannot. We have understood that even if there is a fuel, there is an oxygen also. When there are no right proportion, there is a proportion also depending upon the nature of that fuel. It has to be in a particular concentration, and a suitable ignition should be there. अब cylinder में you see only the fuel. Where is the element of oxygen? Even if oxygen is there, it will not be in right proportion. अब इग्निशन करे तो भी क्या होता है इसमें? There will not be any, it will not be effective. That is the answer because वो सिलेंडर में क्या रहता ज़्यादा फ्यूल ही रहता ना उसमें. There will not be any oxygen inside the cylinder. Will there be oxygen in it? It will not be there. So only when it comes out and only when it mixes with oxygen, only when it is in right proportion, then they will only form clouds. Even then also you will not see, if there is no spark, it will not happen anything. Nothing will happen there. Only when there is a spark, suitable ratio hai, spark bhi hai, then there is a chance of explosion. Otherwise, mere spark and all will not help.
So I mean, in any gas explosion, the cylinder explosion, it means the cylinder will remain intact. It will not explode.
It will not. It will never explode. It will never.
Yes.
It is the gas which explodes. It is the only gas. Right. Okay. So we'll call it a day for today. We'll leave the meeting and tomorrow थोड़ा ये firearms का और थोड़ा देखेंगे और ये blast injuries वगैरह प्राइमरी क्या होता है, सेकेंडरी, टर्शियरी, वो वाला भी थोड़ा डिस्कस करेंगे. देन विल क्लोज दैट चैप्टर एंड प्रॉब्ली नेक्स्ट मीटिंग में हम ये ब्लड के बारे में, अदर बायोलॉजिकल फ्लूइड्स, डीएनए, उसके बारे में थोड़ा हम विल ट्राई टू लर्न मोर अबाउट दैट, है ना.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
So we'll leave today and next class you want tomorrow or day after, you have to tell me.
Tomorrow evening, okay, ma'am. Same time.
No problem, no?
26 को सब ट्रैवलिंग में रहेंगे. 26 को most of the participants ट्रैवलिंग में रहेंगे.
So from 26th onwards we will not have any classes. Is that okay, or you want some class also? 26th will not have any class?
26th will not have, ma'am. 27th will inform. 27th we can have.
So whenever there is time for you, you tell me. I'll be just only, I have to be online. That's it. I have to do nothing.
Okay, noted, ma'am. We'll discuss if available. Will be.
Now some of the questions from your Babu book also, if you feel there is some difficulty, you can feel free to discuss that with me.
Yes, sure.
Out of so many questions, you said some 6,000 questions and all he tried to put, you know. So out of those questions, if something is not very clear, or if you feel that the question is not बिल्कुल समझ में नहीं आ रहा, such questions you can pick up and then you can put up those questions to me. I'll try to find suitable answer with reasons to it, and then we'll try to discuss that also.
Yeah, noted.
Right. For today we'll leave the meeting. Right. Okay.